Matt David. My third year as the U-32 band director. We're so pumped to bring this band up Route 89 today and play some jazz for you. Next up, we have a Quincy Jones arrangement of a classic country tune called I Can't Stop Loving You. It's going to feature some solos here, starting out with Caleb Webster, our piano player, and then trombone, Aneko Farr. This is I Can't Stop Loving You. All right, take it away, Webster. I can't stop loving you. Next up, and I gotta give them a second to get all their clothespins set and everything. We've got a tune by a really great bass player who's actually coming to the Flint in October, Christian McBride, probably my favorite bass player alive right now. This is a really cool funk tune he wrote called Brother Mister, and it's gonna feature some solos by Calvin Winters, our guitar player, and Orrin Chapman on the drums. Brother Mister. Brother Mister, the great Christian McBride. Next up, we're going to go back to Quincy. Quincy Jones is a personal hero of mine, just a guy that lived 1,000 lives and did so much musically. This is another arrangement he did for the Count Basie Band of I Left My Heart in San Francisco, another classic pop tune from years ago. This is going to feature our piano player, of course, Caleb Webster, as well as on the tenor saxophone, Sophie Young. I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Take a second, we got a couple more tunes for you. I want to introduce some special guests we have in the band. Some look a little bit like high schoolers, some don't at all. So I want to start by highlighting two great instructors we've been able to bring in this year. One of them thanks to a grant by the Green Mountain Swing Group to help out our trombone players and work with them on instrument-specific stuff. Give it up for Burlington's own Jesse Metzler on the trombone. And our percussion guru, who we've had for a couple years now, just like showing the drummers what life is like a drummer, Mr. Andrew Palumbo on the percussion. And one face who was in high school as recently a year ago, a U-32 alum who went to St. Mike's, came to our concert last week and said, "Hey Matt, can I hop in at Jazz Fest?" And I said, the more the merrier. Taggart Schrader on the trumpet, everyone. We're getting a little funky with y'all. This is a really hard arrangement, a really fun, hard arrangement of a classic Stevie Wonder tune, Superstition. Enjoy. We're going to hear some solos from Caleb, Calvin, and Ari on this one. Enjoy. Not at this moment, maybe next year. All right, here we go. Superstition. Ari. 1, 2, 3, and... Superstition, a little Stevie Wonder for you. All right, we got 2 tunes left. Before we play this next one, I do want to highlight our seniors who are going to be graduating in, what, like a week and a half? So, Ari Chapin, who you just heard on the saxophone there, give it up for Ari. Nyana Weeks on the tenor saxophone. Give it up for Nyana. And our honorary senior, our exchange student from Germany, who won't be with us next year, Aurelia on the flute. Give it up for Aurelia. Thank you. This next tune is a Chick Corea classic called Spain. All right, Spain. More song. There's so many people to thank. The Flynn, these amazing students, their parents, my awesome music colleagues, everyone at U-32, the bus drivers who were able to get us 2 buses so we could bring some strings and band kids here to hang out with us. And thank you all for coming out. So I hope you get to see lots more music. Jazz Fest is my favorite time of the year. I remember doing this as a student, and I'm so glad we're back at it with U-32. We got one more quick one for you. This is Birdland by Weather Report. It's been our pleasure, and we are excited to be back next year. Here we go. Good? One? 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Burlington. We'll see you next year.